Well, there's one thing that a speaker knows, and that is you do not want to get between a hungry group and food. So I will be punctual. And anyone that's going down the mountain, we're going to all pray together because there was a wreck at the bottom of the mountain going that way.
Oh.
So I called my wife and I said, I may not see you for a long time. And let's just... Would you guys adopt me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
That would be great.
Can we give you a facial?
Yes, I would need that. I would need that. Thank you.
I'm up to ask.
So I grew up in Seattle, Washington, a young man with no self-esteem, no self-image, no self-worth. I worked in a tennis club called the Seattle Supersonics Racket and Health Club, built tennis courts, strung tennis rackets. And one day a man walks right up to me and violates my airspace and he said, would you work for me this summer and build tennis courts? I'll pay you $5 an hour. And I said, pretty cool. This guy was like really a cool guy. And I was all in on making $5 an hour. And I learned from growing up with a single mom. I learned from somebody that essentially became my father figure. His name was Don. His nickname was Sunlight. Hair down to here, dark tan, looked like Jesus on your arm, okay? And I'm not kidding. It was amazing. His nickname was Sunlight. So he taught me how to work. He taught me what integrity was. He taught me about starting on time, playing all out, delivering more on the job than you could ever deliver on what was bid for the job. I went off to Washington State University to play on the tennis team. And how many of you had a college experience? Oh, fantastic. Okay, I finished in just 2 weeks. Did anybody else finish in just 2 weeks? Okay, some people call it dropping out. I call it finishing. And I went back home that summer. I was making $6 an hour building tennis courts, and I saw an ad in the newspaper. And the ad absolutely floored me. It was August 1st of 1982. Sunday paper, Seattle Times. Are you making what you're worth? I had just turned 19 2 weeks earlier. Are you making what you're worth? I live in Beverly Hills, California, drive a Clanay, and made $96,000 in the health and nutrition industry in the last 6 months. Supervisory positions available. Do you call that ad?
Yes. It's 1982, right? Yeah, you call that ad.
Yeah. I didn't have the courage. I didn't have the self-esteem. I'm thinking, how would I qualify for this? And I didn't know what that was. But that ad was in the paper for 4 days in a row, and I looked at my mom, and I said, Mom, they must be desperate. I'm going to call this ad. And it was an answering service. This gentleman called me back the next day, and he says, what's your business background? Whoa. I string tennis rackets, build tennis courts, do anything you can do in a tennis club. And he said, look, I'm just, want to know, do you have desire? Desire means a motivating conviction that moves you to action. When you look at manifesting, it's a lot more than just a picture on the wall. It's every aspect, and we'll go through that a little bit later on. But I got the call, made the appointment, 11 a.m. the next day, went to the meeting, drove home as fast as I could, called my mom at work, and I said, Mom, we're going to a meeting tomorrow night in downtown Seattle. We're going across the floating bridge. We're going to a meeting. And I went to my very first network marketing meeting with about 30 people. Ceilings weren't even higher than 10 feet high. It was kind of a dark, dusty, gloomy room, old hotel. And I walked out, and my sponsor opened his trunk, and he said, how much product do you want? I said, I don't know, what's the best thing? And he says, probably this $445 thing. I wrote a check right there. My mom elbows me and says, do you know what you're doing, son? I said, are you kidding me, Mom? Everybody wants to lose weight, look better, feel better, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I go home, and I start calling friends from high school that I found out 30 and 40 years later, it's not a good idea to call high school girlfriends that you want to lose 5 or 10 pounds. Okay? That just doesn't go over very well. But I found myself at the right place at the right time, and my sponsor walked out with his sponsor. And he said, I'm going to tell you something, that my life was a disaster just a short while ago. And I too answered that ad in the newspaper. And I, just a week before, was in the garage with 18% real estate interest rates in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, which is where this gentleman was from, and no sales. His partners left him. He was $53,000 in debt, had no idea what he was going to do when he went to the same meeting I went to just a few months earlier in Calgary, Alberta. He told the kids, look, let me sell the 10-speed bikes and the color TV and I'll take you to Hawaii for Christmas. He made $75,000 his first 90 days. He told me that if I would read The Greatest Salesman in the World by Og Mandino, how many have a copy of that book, or The Greatest Secret? He told me if I would read that, my life would change. And not only did my life begin to change so dramatically, I don't have time. This is a 90-minute presentation into 30 because we don't want to get in the way of your food, okay? So literally what happens is a few days later, I meet his sponsor, which 8 months later was my wife. Now, if you're going to get married in this business, you marry up, right? In my case, it was 3 generations up, okay? We passed our first $1 million in income when I was 22 years of age. We've been on this journey for 42 years. I can tell you right now that you are at the right place at the right time with the right leaders. I got goosebumps. I told Amanda, I said, when you sign up in a new company and you don't call and try to recruit me, I get angry. Like if my friends ever move companies, I want to hear why you're so excited. You know what I'm saying? And you guys have just this passion and this unbelievable feeling here right now that Og Mandino experienced, and that is Rich DeVos held that book up in 1968 at an Amway meeting. Nobody had read that book until he holds up the greatest salesman in the world. Thousands of people, he says, everyone should read this book. Why should you read this book? Og gives you 75 to 1 odds that you'll do it. In The Greatest Secret, in the introduction, I give you 75 to 1 odds that you'll go through and read these scrolls. How many of you have read all the scrolls? Okay? You know the scrolls. And he says, do it 3 times a day for 9 months. And what he says there is that you will put all the odds in your favor to double and triple your income in a year. And I wrote down how much money I was making, and it 10x'd inside the year.
Yeah.
Okay? And then it 10x'd again, and you got to change your goals. And that's kind of a cool thing when you're adjusting your goals on the fly. Og's 4th scroll says, I am nature's greatest miracle. Now, my wife went to school down the street here at BYU, and she had a professor named Stephen Covey. How many of you have read The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People? Can anyone name all 7 habits real quick? It's a hard book to remember, but it's only 7, okay? But the co-author of that book, I manifested just about 2 years ago that when I read I Am Nature's Greatest Miracle, I thought, why isn't the world more positive? Can we write something? Can we contribute and serve to more people, more teams? Every type of mission-driven entrepreneur in the world. Can we write something that's so simple that you would remember it tonight? You will remember my book tonight. When we leave, you will know that you can 10x your life probably this week if you make the investment. But I'm not talking about the quantitative of your life. I'm talking the qualitative of your life. And so I had this notion and this idea, why can't I write a book? But I'm not a writer. I went to school for 2 weeks. So how do I manifest somebody that knows how to write a book? So it happens to be, I told a friend of mine that used to be the CEO of our company, New York Stock Exchange Company. He was the president of the World Direct Selling Association. And he says, have you ever heard of Ken Shelton? I said, I've never heard of Ken Shelton. He said, he wrote The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People for Covey. And so I get on the phone with him. I told him my idea for my book. I said, look, everybody should be an author. How many of you have ever thought about writing a book? Be honest. Studies show, New York Times studies show, of course that's a trusted source, that about 81% of people have a notion or a thought of writing a book at some time in their life. So there's a scripture in the New Testament that says, I am the author and the finisher. Thank you. So when we think about that, I gave that idea to my friend Ken Shelton, and the next day I had 1,200 words in my book. And I give him a little bit more, and a little bit more, and next thing you know, I have 40,000 words in a book that is called Awakening Who I Am. And that book's going to come out next month, and you're going to be able to get it. So what's fascinating about this is I learned some unbelievable things while writing this book. Yes, we have been blessed for 42 years. I think one of our teams in Austria right now, sometimes in some days, they do multiple millions in a day. Okay? They're the most organized, efficient. I've never seen entrepreneurs this organized. They spent $300,000 to make an app for their team so they know every single presentation that every single person does every single minute of every single day. He thinks like Amazon. He thinks if Jeff Bezos can do it, I can do it. He's absolutely fascinating. So when you think about all of the opportunity that's in front of you right now, how many of you really and truly believe in your heart of hearts that words matter? Let me see a show of hands. How many believe words matter? I believe that the dialogue that's going inside your mind right now, or tonight when you go to bed, tomorrow morning when you wake up, words matter largely. And what I learned while writing this book is that the words, my subtitle is 2 words to ignite your transformation. Transformation requires inspiration. So if you're taking notes, write down I am. I means exist. Am means with God. What follows I am follows you. When I was writing the book, I met a lady named Kim up in Idaho. She did a small study of women, and she had this dream of doing a clothing company. And she found in this study that most women that she studied, I don't know that this is empirical, but you guys can tell me, most women do not feel beautiful, loved, and worthy, generally speaking. True? So you know what she wanted to do? Make pajamas, and on the inside it says, I am loved, beautiful, and worthy. And so we put her in the book as a story to just give people the idea that what follows I am follows you. In each one of the stories of the 7 affirmations, on the very first page of the book, I asked you all to be my co-creator. In other words, you're a co-author, co-creator, partner in the book, because your affirmations may be different than the 7 that I used, with 7 spotlight stories in the book. So we start off on the opening page as a co-creator. What are you all doing here for the last few days? You're co-creating ideas, manifesting, notes, emotion, feeling, and all of that is very, very important because you guys are going to crush it. Your timing is unbelievable. From where I sit in the industry, and I serve on the ANMP's ethics committee, if you're familiar with the Association of Network Marketing Professionals, and I see the book with Sarah, and Sarah's on that committee with me, and I spoke with her on a panel in Austin, I think in February maybe.
Sarah Robbins?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And so the idea that what follows I am follows you, and the co-creation of all of this, and the timing of what I see in the industry is waiting for the next serious group of entrepreneurs to innovate systematically and have a mission. I consider you all mission-driven entrepreneurs. And when you have mission-driven entrepreneurs that combine with a story whose time has come, that has a track record, you've got an opportunity to go from where you are and 10x your life quantitatively and qualitatively. And it can happen very, very fast, as you showed with the screen on the commission check that just goes bonkers. When you hit momentum, I was with a company that went from 10 million to 90 million to 258 million to 508 million in 4 years. I mean, you're talking about just crushing it, right? So things can happen fast when you work as a team. So my number one affirmation here at the beginning of each and every day, and while I'm writing the book, I have this idea that the book's not going to be out for a while. I have a mentor named Dr. Benjamin Hardy. Who knows Dr. Benjamin Hardy? Okay. We've got a few friends here. And he wrote the afterword to the book. And he said, Dan, you're in no hurry to launch your book. The one thing I never did in my life was keep an email list. So I'm totally up to me now, starting from scratch and building that email list. And here I got hundreds of thousands of people that I've worked with and talked to and spoke to. And so he says, you're in no hurry. So I haven't been in a hurry until now because it's been done. But what he said was, you're not in a hurry. And he says, your message is going to resonate with everybody. It's all about, you guys, if you're familiar with Be Your Future Self Now, or 10X is easier than 2X. Yes. I got on the phone with him a year ago, August. He said, Dan, if you read 10X is easier than 2X, if you read the introduction before I come on your show in a couple weeks, your life will change. And I can tell you from August to January, my life 10X'd. In virtually every category. Investments, I could not believe what was happening to my life. So when you align with I am, you all agree that words matter. I created a video, an affirmation video, that would help me understand this quote that you're going to love. How many have a copy of the book, James Clear's book called Atomic Habits? All right? In that book, he quotes a gentleman named Naval Ravikant, hugely successful businessman. Naval Ravikant says this: in order to write a great book, you have to become the book. And so I reached out to this videographer and I said, look, I want this videotape. I want my 7 affirmations. And boom, it comes back to me at 14 minutes. I said, no, it's not quite long enough. She makes it 18 minutes. It comes back to me. And I start saying to myself at 5 a.m. every morning, this is all I'm going to do. How many have done meditation or deep thought, pondering, meditating and stuff like that? I have a busy mind. Does anybody else share that with me? Okay. So if any of you have that, I want you to write this down in your notes. Flow before phone. Flow before phone will 10x your life this week. Flow before phone. This is designed to take you down the rabbit hole of comparison. This is designed to take you down a rabbit hole of I'm not good enough. And you're going to start your day in what we call neurogenesis. Neurogenesis is when you go to bed at night and your mind is now resting, there's new baby nerve cells that are being born. The minute you wake up in the morning, they're waiting to be told what to do. So if we go to our fabulous comparison social media things, what are we feeling? Not good enough, maybe? Okay? So why don't we just program the mind first? So I made this affirmation video. It's 18 minutes. And I do this podcast, and this guy texts me on Messenger, and he says, how did you know to do 18 minutes? I said, well, I just told my videographer that 14 wasn't long enough. He says, I've always struggled with my mornings my whole life. I come from a Hebrew background. And he says, do you know what that means in Hebrew? 18? Does anybody know? 18 in Hebrew means life. He says, you just changed my life. Now, I'm a golfer. You usually play 18 holes. How long is the average TED Talk? 18 minutes, right? So I'm thinking about all these things that came together in my life, and it absolutely had this incredible impact. And Ken Shelton said to me, he says, Dan, you're becoming the book. You've got to become the book. You've got to become your business, your life. And so when you program that mind to say, I am a creator, we go from I am a creator to I am intentional. Now, my wife is incredible at creating memories. Think about what you're great at creating. Is it memories, businesses, relationships, friendships? Are you xenodokial? I am xenodokial.
What does that mean?
Exactly. What's xenophobic? Xenodokial is you're friendly with strangers. I make friends everywhere I go. I love people, right? So I'm intentionally doing that. We'll go through that more later. It's more deeper in the coaching program. So let me just say that number 3 in the book is I am present. You guys, how many of you know that if you can flow before phone, you're going to be more present for every aspect of your life? Is it your workout? Is it your kids? Is it your business? Is it your reading? Is it your journals? Is it your dream board that you're totally all in on? So I made a coin. I started going, a friend of mine's in the book. He was at $500 a day, opiate addicted habit. This guy was going down the path of death. His wife stood up at church and said, my husband's been sober for 10 years. I said, Xander, how in the world can I attend that meeting with you? I want to see what that AA meeting's all about. And he says, you can come every day. He runs it every Wednesday night in Mission Viejo, California. And so I start going to this meeting with him, and he said that somebody asked him after the deepest, darkest day of his life, Xander, you like business, right? Yes, I like business. Why don't you partner with God? And so his affirmation in the book and his healing is, I am partnering with God. And he goes through these I am affirmations and all these things that he had to do when he didn't think God even loved him. He didn't care if he ever lived because he was obviously down that dark rabbit hole. So I created this coin so you could feel, and I learned that from AA. I learned that from Navy, and you learn that from challenge coins. You learn that from gratitude rocks. You learn that you want to feel. We'll get through that later. But do you know who's featured in each one of the spotlight stories? Not only Xander, but I am present, none other than Amanda. Amanda is featured in the book because she has this incredible word that I had to have in the book, and that is, I am present because I am prioritizing.
Oh, yeah.
She is amazing, isn't she? And so I just asked her for permission if I could use her story in the book, and I thought, I have people in here that have seen their husband commit suicide while standing in the driveway.
Oh my gosh.
That is in your position in network marketing, that I had no idea who she was when I was writing this book. And I said, would you mind sharing your story with me? People need to hear how you overcame. No one in her entire history of her family had ever bought a house. Now she's living in her dream home. She just got married for the second time. She just had her first baby. And she has these beautiful affirmations that changed her life as well. So then we go to I am worthy. I believe I am worthy. We made a specific affirmation video. Our YouTube channel is @affirmIam. And we made a specific 7-minute affirmation video. So you can wake up or go to bed or listen to it anytime. As a matter of fact, I just listened to it driving up the road here tonight. I am worthy. How many read Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod? You like Hal? Hal was instrumental in the book. and he was really instrumental in getting me off my plateau. And when I got off my plateau, my life exploded because I just got adrenaline surge because I intensified my own miracle morning. I had one, but I was drifting. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with what Napoleon Hill says in, what's the book?
Think Grow Rich.
Not Think and Grow Rich, the one that you wrote right after that. Outwitting the devil.
Yes.
Outwitting the devil. Do not drift. And I was drifting, and I know I'm not supposed to be a drifter, but I still read my scriptures, did my prayers, my meditation, my workout. Life was okay, but I was drifting. You wouldn't know, but I knew. And when I met Miracle Morning 2 years ago this month, and I watched his documentary, adrenaline surged through my body. I never have slept the same, woke up the same. He agreed to do the foreword to the book, had him come out here to Utah, had a chance to go to lunch with him at Redmond Farms. If anybody hadn't eaten Redmond Farms yet, it's the best, healthiest place in Orem. And he says, Dan, he says, are they open for dinner here? Can we come back here for dinner? So to hang out with Hal Elrod for an entire day is a pretty cool deal. And so when you think about this journey of I am a creator, I am intentional, I am present, that's how you win the morning. I am worthy is really how you win at everything. Because you are, and you might want to write that down, I am just as worthy, deserving, and capable as anyone else on the planet to reach that goal that's on that dream board. And so when you think about your present, has anybody had a bit of a rocky year? Like, duh, right? Okay, so now let's take the present and let's go for a paradigm shift. How do we make the present better? We make our future bigger. We don't succumb to what somebody else decided to do with our income, our downlines, our organizations. We change the paradigm and say, everything that happened for me, not to me. Relationships, finances, business decisions, all these things happened for me, not to me. And then you take your present and you say, my future's so big, it doesn't matter what happened back there because it happened for me. And so then you take your present and then you feel more worthy. And then you go to I am capable, number 5. Number 6 is I am compassionate. In the book of Jude, it says, Jude 1:22, and some have compassion, making a difference. Do you feel compassion for yourself first or others first? Do we put the oxygen mask on first? Or the baby? Interesting thought, right? Take care of you so then you can shine your brightest to take care of others. Our 14th grandchild was born 2 years ago December, and my daughter Mackenzie named him Jude. And I said, Jude, guess what? As I'm holding this tiny little baby, we got a few babies here, I have a mission statement for you in your life. It's to be compassionate. Some have compassion, making a difference. Number 7 is very personal. You've shed a few tears. I might shed a few tears. I'm a crier. Okay to say it. Is I am a finisher. Think about the tasks, the projects, the ideas, the business that's in front of you. I am a finisher. My sponsor
I never even met him.
I know you did.
And I'm crying
Okay.
because I watched his talk, one talk, and I was like,
My sponsor was one of the most well-known guys in Utah in the direct selling world. In the direct selling world, he was just iconic. I met him, he was probably worth $20 million. A lot of money. He and I would fly in his private jet occasionally, and I would sit in the co-pilot seat because his wife wouldn't, she would be in the back. And he would always say, aren't we blessed? Aren't we grateful that we can fly in and speak to an audience of 1,000, 2,000, 100? He would do 50 or more. If they didn't have 50, the upline had to pay for the room, okay, or pay for the flight or something. But on January 2nd of 2023, he was flying to the Rose Bowl in his jet, and his jet didn't get off the ground. He died, was thrown from the plane, and his wife and 4 other bankers in the plane lived. Right here in Provo, Utah. When he died, he was probably worth north of $300 million. It's not always about your commission check, it's what you do with the commission check. Investing in yourself, investing in other people. Ideas can be life-changing. You only need one. You now have a new idea. You have a new business, a new company. Now put all the pieces together. And start with words. Start with affirmations. I am, you fill in the blank. When I think back about Nathan Ricks, he has a very famous talk that you watch called Be a Finisher, right? And he never even thought about the idea. But he was the greatest finisher I ever met. And he gives examples, and we do the digest in I Am a Finisher in the 7th affirmation in the book. And so I'll conclude with this idea because I know your food is nearby. There are 7 levels of affirmations. If you really want to believe and go all in, this won't take long. And you will see a shift in relationships. You'll see a shift in your recruiting, your selling. It's rapid. When you can stack. Has anybody heard of the idea of stacking? Like when you stack wins, right? We start our team calls off by saying, okay, let's talk about who had wins this week, right? Now let's stack affirmations. Here's how it goes. First, it's what we think. There's 7 levels. In the book, Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill talks about auto-suggestion. Think. And then I actually have a friend of mine that coaches high achievers here in Utah. And when there's trauma in life, he actually coaches his clients to not just say, so you go think, say, but in some cases to yell. I interviewed a Think and Grow Rich expert this morning on one of my shows. His mastermind in Hawaii in 1970-something, when things weren't going well, in the 80s, when things weren't going well, his mastermind teacher that was learned from Napoleon Hill, you got to yell this right now, Alan. This guy was born with 1 leg and 1 hand. You got to yell these affirmations. Trauma's happened in your life. Things haven't gone well. And then you have to write it. We're stacking. And then I went back and re-interviewed the spotlight stories in my book that dealt with trauma. And I said to some of them, could you feel healing? Exodus 15:26 says, I am the Lord that healeth. Can you feel healing? And I called my daughter, who's in the book, who had a disease. She played college basketball, scored 46 points in a college basketball game, and gets married, has 3 kids, and all of a sudden she has this weird headache. Next thing you know, she's got this brainstem that needs surgery. Next thing you know, she has this disease, and 5 doctors say, you have MS. She says, I don't have MS. And the next doctor walks in the room, and he says, you're the first patient I've ever seen in California that has Susac disease. Nobody's ever heard of Susac. There's not even 1,000 people in the country that have Susac. It attacks the ears, the eyes, and the brain. She could be at my house in Coto de Caza, California, and drive to her house 3 miles away and ask my wife for directions. She'd wake up one morning, couldn't hear. Eyes couldn't see because all the blood vessels were just not working. In the book, unbeknownst to me, when she went into her room every day, she was intensely doing affirmations. I am healing. And she teaches them to her kids, and they can all utter it all. It's just unbelievable to see. I had nothing to do with it. So when you feel, and then you taste. Can you taste healing? Can you taste success? Can you taste momentum? Can you taste friendship? I absolutely believe you can. It's another lady in the book, and one of the affirmations, and I'll close with this. She was diagnosed with a brain tumor the week she started with me in my business, 17 years ago. High achiever, Edmonton, Alberta, high achiever. Outdoors woman, hits her head on a coffee table and thought, that kind of felt weird. Something happened here. Long story short, she has a brain tumor. She's holding the surgeon's hand while they're wheeling her in for the surgery. And she says, I want you to know, Doc, I'm working with you. I am working with you. And her healing story is off the charts remarkable. She travels the world, climbs Mount Kilimanjaro, and does all these amazing things. So in closing, The number 7 one is the 7th level, is to share. When Stephen Covey wrote The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, for years he pondered and was asked, what's after the 7 habits? And years later he wrote the 8th habit. Does anyone know what the 8th habit is? Exactly. Because it's just another book when a popular author has another book. The 8th habit is so you and me. It's all of us. It's the 7th level of affirmations, and that is to share. It's the 12th step in the AA program. It is when you find your voice, it's incumbent upon you to help others find theirs. And when you do that, you're living life. You're feeling worthy. You want to serve. You want to wake up the next morning. You want to do those affirmations. You're looking for, dreaming for that next opportunity to, I'm not sure if you call it sponsor or how do you refer to it as, okay? You bring on that next mission-driven entrepreneur or whatever you might refer to it as. And I just want to say to you in closing that while I don't know all of you well, I know you well enough. And I was closing a meeting in Scotland in 2016. Probably 4 or 5 times this crowd. I'm the #1 distributor of my company in Scotland. And there was a break. When I got there, I didn't know the agenda. And the lady says, yeah, you got 5 hours. And I'm like, what? I said, okay, I'll take 5 hours. So we take a break. I come back and I say, what was the #1 takeaway for you this morning in the morning session? This lady in the far back left corner, right where you're at. She said, you told me I was good enough. And while I may never know you at the level of your team and all of your intimate family and team members do, I won't know you that well, but I know well enough after 42 years of doing this that you are good enough to make an impact. Start with I am. If you want to be on my mailing list, you can go to you can go to affirmim.com, my website. And I want to see who here today is at their very first network marketing meeting ever. Anybody? Anybody just joined? Really? Okay. Here's your coin. So you can feel it. What's your name? Star. I love that name. You're a star. Did you say you two are the first time? First time ever. I'm sorry? Lindsay?
Oh, yeah. We were the same state for. She's from Santa Maria. Yeah, she know my parents really well in Maryland.
Isn't that great?
It's great.
I don't know her well, but I like her already. Amanda, I just want to thank you for giving me the opportunity, and what I'd like to do is to stack wins. I want you to stack every possible way. If you want a journal, you can get Awakening Who I Am journal. We don't try to make a lot of money on them. The book's going to come out hardback and paperback. The coins are on the website for $30, and maybe you'll do a team giveaway or a team contest or something, and I can make some kind of special arrangements for you. But the coin says on one side, what do you see, Star? On the one side of the coin, it says, there's a picture of a magnet. What does it say? Really loud.
For miracles, I am magnet.
I am a magnet for miracles. You and I need to wake up each and every day. That's all right. That's all right. I want you to write that down. I want you to think about it. It's become a mantra across my entire platform, and that is, I am a magnet for miracles. Seek and expect miracles in your life, and they will happen. God bless you. Thank you so much. Good to be with you. What's your name? I like your shirt.